Morning, Saturday, January 18th, 2025. I'm Larissa. This is my video diary. The time has come. Once again, to drink from skulls. Oh my God. Oh. Ugh. Yeah. So yesterday I got some writing done. Oh my gosh. I'm going back to this series of work that I did a number of years ago. And putting myself back in that position where I was at that time, you know. I mean, every year is different, right? You know, and oh, the work's heavy. Well, all of my work is heavy, but oh, there was so much that fallout that happened after the completion of this work. And I'm not saying that it wasn't because of this work. It was just, you know, stepping back and looking at, you know, it marks a place in time for me, right? You know, the completion of each piece and each series. Oh my God. Yeah. I don't know. You know, writing the magazine has been is an interesting it's an interesting experience. It's a practice of deep reflection on the work that I do, and oh gosh, like there's no break from it, right? Um, I you know, there's no break, you know. So in some ways, it's become like the diary I used to keep. Oh, when we were living in Oakland, I used to get up at like 5 o'clock every morning, and um, the first thing I would do is, well, first thing I do is go to the bathroom, right? But like the first thing I would do after that, then, is I would read my daily missal, and I would write my diary. I would write my reflection. I would write my diary, and then I would shower, and then I would go to yoga, and I was taking that Ashtanga, doing that Ashtanga practice at that time. There was a studio called it was called Me and You and the Mat. You and the Mat. Ashtanga practice. They had an Ashtanga class at like 7:30 in the morning. So I would go do that. And then after that, I would go to Mass. And then after Mass, I would walk the circuit around the lake. And then after that, I would have breakfast at, you know, there were a couple different places that I would go. A couple times a week. A couple times a week, dance would be added into that. I'd go. Just a very, very different. After those journals were stolen, because those were the journals that were taken. It was, well, there was one journal. There was one entire journal taken, and then there were pages taken out of other journals and sketchbooks. And I think there was one sketchbook that was taken too, an entire sketchbook that was taken. In the studio space that I had there, I had these big tall bookshelves, these big tall IKEA bookshelves in the studio, and I had all of my sketchbooks and journals arranged on my sketchbooks, journals, and my appointment books from every year. I had them all arranged chronologically, right? It was like journal, sketchbook, journal, sketchbook, appointment book, right? But chronologically together. And when when we came back from Vegas, when they poisoned me in Vegas, and when we came back in the house, the apartment had been tossed. That was one of the things. They had gone through all of the books on my bookshelf. There were books missing on the bookshelf too, and some of my books that I used to, when I read, I keep notes in the margins, and the books they took books that had a lot of notes, and I made those notes because when I would go back and reference them in writing or whatever, then it was easier than cross referencing notes in a notebook, right? Like if I wrote in the book itself. Um, they stole books. They stole, but all of those things were put back in the wrong order because I had everything organized. Like all of my books were organized by genre, and then like I said, all of my notebooks, sketchbooks, all my journal sketchbooks, and old appointment books were arranged chronologically, and they were all everything was out of order. It was the same thing like in my closets. Um, all of my clothes were out of order. I had my clothes arranged in closets because I had all of my performance gear. Like my wardrobes weren't just my everyday clothes, they were also my performance gear. And a lot of the stuff I wore, you know, for both, right? Like what I wore on stage was not just costume most of the time. Some of it was. I mean, some of the stuff that I wore as costume was like I would have never walked around wearing that, kind of thing. Just like weird stuff, right? But it was costume. But some of it, was my everyday clothes. But I had them arranged by season and by whether they were things that would wear on the street or things that were just costume. And all of that stuff was um, nothing was put back in the right places. Stuff had been stretched out, and I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. So, like I don't know what all they did, but it was just like such a violation. And the magazine in some ways fulfills the for me like practically fulfills those those actions, right? Those practices. Um, but I prepare it to be officially released publicly. And that's part of why I do this, and it's why I do this video diary. It's like, okay, I can still keep my personal thoughts, right? Um, but do it in such a way that they can be presented publicly. Um, so I guess there's some things that I keep even more private now, and like a person should be allowed to have private thought, right? And like keeping a diary is something a person should be able to do, right? Why am I not allowed to have that privacy? So, but I keep it, I do this publicly, and the magazine is really where I go in depth with my artwork. And all of that I used to do in journal and in sketchbook, you know. Yeah, so the format of the diary that was stolen was the one um was, getting up, reading the missal. And I read the missal because I knew I was going to go to mass, right? And I wanted to be ready to hear what the priest's homily was um, in relationship to what my uh, understanding of what the readings were. So if you're not Catholic and you don't know, so what the missal is the order of the mass, and so you can, all Catholic churches follow the same, hear the same readings on the same days, and they're assigned, right, years out, and they go in a cycle. And there's, there's a reading from the Old Testament, there's a reading from the New Testament, there's the Psalm, and um, sometimes there's another reading as well. And so I would always make sure I read my missal before I went to Mass, because there's no homily in the missal, right? The homily is what the priest then, like the priest's synopsis or application of the readings into daily life or whatever is. So after I would read my missal in the morning, I would reflect on that. I would reflect on that and how I saw themes in the readings, in my life and in my work. And I would write about, work I was doing or whatever. But it all came back to the day's readings in the missal. And that was the journal that was stolen. Hey, buddy. Look who it is. Hey, mister. How are you? How are you, sir? You going to come up here with me? Are you? You going to come up here and lay down on a bed? Come on. You can. All right. You can. You can come up here. Come on. Come on. Hi, good boy. Hi. Hi. Thank you for kisses. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's very sweet of you. Okay. Thank you. You going to lay down now? Okay. Yeah. So, writing yesterday was a little bit challenging. And I found a poem that I'm including in this issue that I'm working on right now. And reflecting back on that poem was a little bit hard too. Yeah. Anyway. I just tried to be nice to me yesterday. I did. Yeah. It's like hair everywhere. Jeez. Oh my God. Yeah. I just don't understand why somebody would steal something like that. Like, who takes something like that? Seriously. Like, I wasn't in the journal. I wasn't writing juicy gossip about people at all. Like, you would think if somebody's going to steal a diary that they're going to steal something and get dirt on you about, like, I did this rotten thing or that rotten thing, or or so and so is sleeping with so and so or whatever. But that's not what my journal. That's not what it was at all. It were my prayers and my Bible reflections. That's what was stolen. And poetry. There's poetry in that journal. Yeah. Sometimes I would write my reflection in the form of a poem. Sometimes. Anyway, that's why I publish what I publish and why I do what I do. Part of it. It's like, here, you don't have to break in my home and violate me. Yeah. Which is also like why it hurts so much when I see stuff that I know is in my journals or was in that journal or stuff show up in entertainment industry stuff. It's really hurtful. Yeah. I have to wonder like where are those things? Who has them? I don't know. My Lord, my God, when I in awesome wonder consider all the worlds thy hands hath made, I hear the roaring thunder, thine power throughout the universe displayed. Then sings my soul, my Saviour God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. Yeah. Yeah. Anyway. When I'd go to Mass, I would then sing, and I read the missal in the morning so I could consider what hymns would be appropriate to go with the readings. So it wasn't just like it was never just Larissa singing so people could hear Larissa sing, right? Like I enjoyed worship that in that manner and respected it. So, so I always made sure that, things were appropriate, right? Because there's some songs you don't sing at certain times of the year and stuff. And yeah. Oh, sometimes I miss going to mass, but I don't miss church. And um, that's hard sometimes. But I find connection with God through my work, and it's extremely personal. Spirituality, spiritual practice, spiritual relationship is incredibly intimate. Oh, and at the news, just the news coming out of LA with the fires down there, and it's also very painful. Watching the abuse of this land, of this earth, it's also very painful. And I've been writing about this and doing work around this topics, and it's like for not just months but for years now. And decades, decades, not even decades. I see such mass devastation that was preventable. And even the feelings I have about culture in that area down there, like Hollywood entertainment culture is awful. And it's like, well, maybe this will be a turning point for some of that, but probably not, you know. But maybe, I don't know. Like, is there room for hopefulness among the despair and the ashes? I don't know. I don't know. All I know is that human beings are largely despicable animals. Largely despicable. Yeah. Oh, what my favorite hymn? My favorite hymn. My favorite hymn is actually a psalm. It's Hosea. Well, it's a hymn that is written from a psalm. A straight psalm is a little bit different, I mean, it's a part of the mass. My favorite psalm is the Good Friday psalm. But anyway, favorite hymn is Hosea. Yeah. Come back to me with all your heart. Don't let fear keep us apart. Trees do bend, though straight and tall, so must we to others call. Long have I waited for your coming home to me and living deeply our new life. The wilderness will lead you to your heart, where I will speak integrity and justice with tenderness. You shall know. Long have I waited for your coming home to me and living deeply our new life. You shall sleep secure in peace. Faithfulness will be your joy. Long have I waited for your coming home to me and living deeply our new life. Yeah, that's my favorite hymn. My Auntie Mama, my grandmother's favorite hymn was On Eagle's Wings. Yeah. He'll raise you up on eagle's wings, bear you on the breath of dawn, make you to shine like the sun, and hold you in the palm of his hand. Oh. Anyway, I told Omar if I die before him to just dig a hole out in the yard and dump me in it standing, wrap me in a sheet, and dump me in a hole. I don't need to be laying down, and I don't need any fanfare. Pray that the earth accepts me.